Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back for another barbecue talk. In today's video, we're going to be doing a short interview with the owner of Cattleack BBQ, Todd David. If you guys haven't seen my last video of my visit at Cattleack, talking about the food and just kind of the environment itself, definitely go check that out. What I wanted to do more specifically in this video is to kind of get a little more background of the man who built Cattleack BBQ and what they do in order to make sure that everyone's experience is as great as the one that I had when I went there. And I think the one thing that I love about barbecue is, as much as I love the food and the cooking, it's the people that I genuinely love even more. Knowing their story and where they come from makes the food taste better, in all honesty. I just hope that you enjoy this conversation that I had with Todd David, the owner of Cattleack BBQ. I want to say again, thank you for giving time to do this, because I know you're a busy person, and even though I know Cattleack is technically only open 2, max 3 days a week, I know you guys aren't only working 2-3 days a week.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I can help you. I mean, a big part of what we enjoy, you know, we get to, one, we're getting stuff ready, and 2, we're what I call brainstorming. You know, we're testing out different things. And I was in the back just now making some Carolina sauce that we make to go with either our chopped pork or our whole hog. And I'm trying to figure out, what difference does that lemon make to the vinegar? Stuff we do on, well, for me, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday,
right, getting
ready for Thursday and Friday.
It's like one thing that I wanted to talk about is, you know, just kind of people getting to know you and your background, because I think your kind of route to opening up Cattleack BBQ is maybe a little bit more different than most people would expect.
If I go backwards, before barbecue, I was in the disaster cleanup business. Before I was in the disaster cleanup business, I was in the carpet cleaning business. For the carpet cleaning business, I was in sales for a short time, and before that, working for a very large accounting firm. Before that, I had just come out of college. That's what my degree was in. When I was in college, in the summer times, I was at home washing windows, which is a business I started in high school. That's how I got in the carpet cleaning business in Dallas. One thing always led to another. Anyway, that whole time in my backyard, I'm growing up in St. Louis, my dad's cooking mostly ribs. Now, when we cooked back then, we called it barbecue, but we were grilling.
Sure, yeah.
Same
as me, yeah.
Yeah. Everywhere I've lived, every apartment I've had, there was always a Weber, and I cooked all kinds of stuff in it. When I first came to Dallas in '79, I graduated college. My apartment on the balcony was a Weber kettle. I tell people all the time, that's how I met girls back in those days. I was around the pool and up on the balcony cooking barbecue, and people are coming up to the apartment to get some lunch or whatever, and I'm writing down phone numbers and whatever else you had to do. And it was always a social thing. You know, there's always that noun and verb with barbecue. It's the food and it's the event. And to this day, I'm kind of doing the same thing. I'm still not doing it for a paycheck. I'm very blessed and lucky to be in a position where I don't have to do that. And people are always like giving me a hard time about why we don't open more days. And it's like, I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it to feed them, but that's it. The rest of it's about me enjoying my life. You know, if you look back 50 years ago, what Miss Tootsie was doing, she was trying to live and get by and pay her bills and things like that. It wasn't the cool thing. It was survival. She was doing it before it was cool. We used to eat at a barbecue joint downtown Dallas. It was across the street from the city jail. You got a brisket sandwich. Yeah. And they didn't call it that. They call it a barbecue sandwich or something.
Right, yeah.
And it was chopped brisket or
Claude or something like that.
Yeah, or the Claude chopped up. I can even remember going down, I don't remember if it was Kreitz or which place I went to in Lockhart, but in my early travels down that way, it was as basic as you got as far as compared to today. The food was damn good. Yeah. It was great barbecue, and it still is. Yeah, people have taken it other notches and tried different things with it, but the greatness that they had is just as great today as it was then. It's just, in my opinion, there's a whole lot of new folks. New folks bring with them new ideas. We're all blessed to have that. You know, when the great Aaron Franklin and people come along and teach all of us new stuff, we all benefit from eating there, and we benefit from their knowledge and their education in trials and tribulations that they've gone through to learn how to do it even better. And we just all keep doing the same thing of, okay, well, I'm going to try experimenting with this and experimenting with that.
I think going through that entire process of finding that right balance is the fun part of it, right? It's the
Absolutely.
process.
And I tell folks all the time, we're open one Saturday a month, first Saturday of each month. Our line is so long on that particular Saturday where people are just dying to come over here. Well, the line gets pretty long and the wait gets pretty long. So years ago, I started this, you know what, if they're going to wait about an hour before we open, I do what I call pits and punch, which is just go out where the pits are. We'll make you some punch and answer whatever questions you have. People are always asking, how much salt and pepper do you use, and this and that and so on. And, you know, what's in your rub and this and that. And I'm always like, you know, use what you like. Don't make it the way I like it. Make it the way you like it. I'll tell you what I do. I don't have any problem with that, but don't worry so much about what the other guy's doing. I understand getting the basics and the principles. I did the same thing, but yeah, making it your own is real key.
The first time I went to Cattleack, I think seeing pictures of the place and actually being there was completely different. It felt like a barbecue clubhouse, kind of like other people that they would do for sports or having different pictures or jerseys up or whatever, but you have a bunch of pictures up of, well, you have Emmett Smith on there too, so other celebrities, but other cooks and just a relationship with them. It wasn't a look who I know. It was more of like, wow, look at all these people I got to meet because of barbecue in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're all legacies in this world, and they all helped me. We'll go back to Miss Tootsie or anything like that. They're inspiring.
Right.
They've taught me different things. Edgar Black, I got to meet him in his days, and Misty and I, my wife, sat down at a table with him and his wife, the original Blacks back then, you know, and everybody that we have on that wall pretty much are inspiring in some way. You know, I took 7 or 8 of the most inspirational people, John Lewis and Aaron Franklin and so on, and put them in murals out in the alley because they all mean something to my little barbecue world.
Sure.
All I'm trying to do is on a couple days a week, put on my backyard barbecue in a bigger facility, have everybody help me cover the cost of that.
Sure.
Okay. And, you know, it's still about sharing the barbecue with your friends, your family, and strangers. It wasn't to get into Texas Monthly. Believe me, I'm very grateful for that. But it was to be able to make those people's day when they come in for lunch. When you came in and saw the building, that's what we're about. It's all about picnic tables. It's about that backyard barbecue experience. How great can we make that little part of time where someone gets to come in and have lunch, get away from work, or whatever they're getting away from, come in and enjoy a nice meal, camaraderie with whoever they meet or see, hopefully very enjoyable for them.
People were asking me, how was Cattleack? And I was like, it was everything that I wanted to be and more, just because, you know, I, going into it, just knew of it as a top 10 barbecue spot. But then it very quickly became just, I felt like I was going back to my own pop-ups when I was having pop-ups in my backyard. Even when I was looking at the menu and tasting the food, obviously there's a lot of influence from Texas barbecues, but there are 2 things very specifically that I remember when I was eating with you that I was like, I asked you if you were from the Midwest because it was 1, the burn ends that I had, and then 2, when I was eating the beans that you guys served, they were kind of like in the middle between like a baked bean that I typically grew up eating and also beans that I ate in Texas. And it was like a nice little middle ground between it. While I was eating those 2 things, I was wondering, what is the style or the theme of the food at Cattleack?
So I try to keep it as traditional as possible, I guess, because that's what I'm used to. I'm used to real simple or neighborhood type barbecue. In St. Louis, there was nothing fancy to anything. It was what you enjoyed. You sometimes don't realize how special that is until you really have something to compare it to. So I try to keep those flavors as much as possible.
I think something specifically about barbecue, and I tell this to people all the time because, you know, people will talk about like, oh, I had barbecue at this place, but it's really not that good. There are certain places that I go to, not necessarily because I think it's the best barbecue, but I have so many fond memories of eating that food. Probably like my oldest memory of barbecue or two. One was like in the summers, like in the Weber, in the backyard with like our grandparents, our aunts, uncles, and my cousins. And we were just rolling in the backyard in the summer and hanging out after church on Sunday. And that's all I really remember from that one moment. I don't remember the food, how it tasted. I just remember how it felt. And then the second one is a place in Chicago called Carson's Ribs. Now, it's not necessarily barbecue because all of it is kind of just, I'm pretty sure it's all thrown into a hotel pan and steamed, brushed with sauce and grilled. But I just remember eating those ribs, those baby back ribs. We were upstairs and eating those ribs with our grandparents while watching the Bulls and the Lakers play. So it was MJ and Kobe playing and eating those ribs. And I was just like, this is the best moment of my life.
Absolutely. It's the experience.
Yeah. And I think, and I always tell people, nostalgia is such a strong flavor of food. And I think that's why barbecue is one of those things where everyone has that connection, because everyone at some point, for the most part, has cooked with fire and some sort of meat. And it always kind of brings in those memories of like, I don't need to worry about anything right now.
And barbecue brings people together from the very beginning. And I think that's one of the reasons too. People are like, why would you stand in line for a meal? And it's like, well, it's not just any meal. It's barbecue. And part of that nostalgia just, I think, catches into so many that, okay, they're in line, but everybody's being friendly with each other, and people are sharing the beer in their coolers and seats, and it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
I watched this past weekend, and I passed out hundreds of beers, just hundreds. And we have water set up out there and so on, but nobody's complaining. Nobody complained to me. They're all like, you think you'll have food left when we get inside? Because they knew they had a couple-hour wait on Saturday. And they're not leaving. They're joining up with their friends and so on. That's part of what they're here for. Is that it's that family time, you know, it's that or their friend time or whatever it is. That's half of what barbecue is that whole social event. Like the ribs that you're talking about eating, as long as they were good and you could get them down, it didn't really matter. It wasn't, oh, are they number one or are they number two? Or so-and-so is better. It's like, no. I'm having a great time. Don't screw it up for me.
I always tell people, if the food being really good is kind of like the exclamation point on the experience.
Absolutely. If it's mind-blowing, that's the bonus. That's all. That's the icing on the cake. Yeah. But if it's a great time, that's what you're there for.
It's funny because I talk to my friends now who have eaten my food since I've been cooking for them in my backyard since we were like 13 or 14. Wow. And we always just joke and just talk about like, wow, that food back then, I still remember it. I still remember it being really good, but knowing what you've changed is like, it probably wasn't. Like now, I mean, definitely looking at pictures and we can all laugh about it, but I wouldn't have replaced those moments for anything. You know, those are the moments where I learned the most and I appreciate the most, so that now that I am able to be in this circle, I'm like, wow, like if I didn't do any of that, there's no way I would be here doing this.
Absolutely. And I feel like I'm always still learning. You know, I'm not the teacher by any means. Right. Okay. I have so much to learn.
I've realized is that there's so many people now, because we talked about earlier, there's so much information out there now.
Sure.
That the entry to getting to your brisket or your ribs or anything to be really, really good in a short amount of time, like, man, people learn fast. It's really fun now because a lot of conversations that I have with people, whether through Instagram or YouTube comments, it's not how do you make something good, it's how do you avoid that thing. They know how to make things good, but there's always that one problem that comes up. And then once they fix that one, then it's that other problem that comes up. And it's just really fun to, in a way, kind of go through that process with people, like just through comments and things like that.
The expectation, it takes a ton of patience.
Yeah.
And then the expectations are always higher than you're going to get it at, I think. And so, and hopefully you've got your expectations always at in anything you want to achieve.
As I talk to a lot of people who have their own places, I always find that the hardest thing is to take your attention to detail and to kind of get that installed into other people. But I always explain it to people like this: it would be amazing if someone cared about my food and my business as much as I did. But
you won't ever find that.
Right. And so I always tell people the only thing that I have taught myself to do is to explain everything to the highest degree that I personally know, with all the details, even though I personally cannot hit all those marks every single time. Because if, kind of what you were talking about before, if we're reaching here and those people only get this much of the information, that standard is still super high, right?
Sure. When
you're looking for people, especially since your operation is a little bit smaller and you're open, 2 to 3 days a week, like how did you find people to work for you, and what are some things that you're looking for?
Well, the team I have today is the best team I've ever had. A majority of my team has been here more than 5 years each through the pandemic. Wow. and everything. To find them, I don't know how many hundreds I went through. And I'm a son of a bitch to work for it. And the reason for it, it's not that I'm a jerk or anything. It's that my standards are very high.
Yeah.
And finding someone else that buys into that isn't just doing it because it's their job, but they agree with that. And they have that in their pedigree already, that where they've worked or where they've been, they can show you that that made a difference.
Sure.
And it may just be cooking at home, but it's really hard to find. To this day, I probably average, 6 to 8 hours a week to be open 2 days a week. Wednesday, I'm probably here 14 hours. Thursday, I'm probably here 14 to 16. Friday's a lighter day, I'm here 12. A Saturday, I don't need to be here, but I'm always here for a little bit. Sunday, I'm here for a little bit. Monday is minimum of 8 hours. Tuesday's the same thing. So I don't ask any of them for any more than I'm willing to do myself. If they're not willing to do that, they're the wrong person. I've been through hundreds, and same in my other businesses, because everything we did was strive for quality. And we've always strived to be outstanding in what we do. That means that each person has to be outstanding. If they're not trying to do that, and I can't see that in them, they don't have the right chemistry, in my opinion, for what I'm looking for. We won't get along, and they won't bring me any benefit. I don't need a warm body. Like I say, I'm not trying to build a business out of it. I'm trying to maintain what I do and them to help provide for those customers. And in turn, they're providing for their family and so on in their future. Sure. And that's why these folks have been here a long time, and they're paid well, but they're not here for that. And it's not just about that. Okay. They wouldn't have gone through what they've gone through just for that check. Their hands not held. I don't do that. I don't have time for that. Although I'll hold them to the standard. When Andrew learned how to trim briskets, okay, I explained to him and showed him what I wanted. And without a doubt, he does that better than I ever expected him to do, because he's taken above what I expected from myself to do. Sure. But it started with what those expectations were, and he worked at it and worked at it and worked at it, and he was determined.
Right.
He's got that discipline and determination to take it to a point where today he's almost obsessed with it.
It's like the golden standard now, right?
Okay. And it's not necessary to be at that standard to get a really good brisket, right? But there's not a reason to go less than that. And since we've created that monster and it comes out that well, we continue to do that.
In general, I think barbecue is a very simple process in itself.
Yes.
And generally, when I'm talking to people who are getting into barbecue, I just tell them, keep it simple. Like, there are a couple of things that we just need to get right in order to where we're just feeding our family. We want to have a good time. We don't want to feel like we ruined by any means, but it is after you set one standard. I know I can get it this good, but if I fix one thing and I can control my temperatures a little bit better, then I can do that. And it's just also simple thing as making sure my knife is as sharp as it needs to be when I'm trimming it so it doesn't look as jagged. I never want to separate backyard cooks from restaurant guys, because essentially we're all the same. Like that's what I'm doing now. I went back to the backyard, and there is a level of like humility that comes from we're all doing the same thing. It's just the fact that, you know, when people come in and they're paying this amount of money, then we need to make sure it's as good as it possibly can be, and Absolutely. We have to take care of all of this.
We're all trying to provide pleasure, and how we do that, whether we're heavier on the music playing or heavier on the quality of the meat or heavier on the fancy tables. There's so many ingredients you can put in there for that. Barbecue's just, it's something that so many of us grew up on in our backyards. Whereas fine dining, we didn't have that in our backyards.
Right. Most people who know about Cattleack probably have heard you say that this is your retirement plan, right?
Yes.
Like, it's behind the cutting block or where the menus are on the wall, where one sign that says, "What part of a retirement don't you understand?" And I just found that to be so funny. You're running around making sure everything is taken care of and that all your customers are happy. You're bussing tables, you're still directing people, you're talking to customers in line. What makes this your perfect or your preferred retirement plan?
It's just the feeling I get from it. And again, and I'm only with those customers 2 days a week. If I was with them 5 days a week, I'd probably learn to hate them. And
sure.
Because the customers will get on your nerves after a while, you know, and so I don't ever venture into that. I have them. It's like, again, if this was in the backyard, when people come over to your home and you cook for them and so on, you love having them there. But you reach a point where it's time for y'all to go home.
Okay? I've definitely felt that for sure.
Yeah, they've worn out their welcome a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's the same way. I love when our customers come in and we've made their day and we're providing this incredible experience for them and all this pleasure just for their lunchtime. And it just kind of brings something into their day that they just didn't have. Right. And that's a good feeling. It's not all we want to do, and that's why we only do it a couple days a week. I mean, my wife would love to travel and see more things and do things outside of the barbecue world. Right. But I get addicted to it, and I don't want to turn my back on the customers. I have a lot more fun cooking and serving barbecue than I did playing golf.
I feel like no matter how busy I get, no matter how tired I am, if I know that the food that I served was good, if they're happy, it just makes everything, all that time that was spent, worth it.
Right.
You know? And I really do feel like one of my love languages is feeding people, being able to take care of people.
At the end of the day, the guy that has the restaurant or pop-up or whatever it is, he has to love it as much as the customers love it. Otherwise, it's not any good for him. He's not accomplishing anything with it. You know, it's his life is just as important as anybody else's. Yeah. And that's what he's doing with his livelihood, not just a meal. So I think that's very important.
Definitely. All right, guys, so that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Again, just being able to get like a little more vibe of the place and what people actually do and where their head is at when they're trying to make the best barbecue experience as possible. To me, it makes barbecue not ever be boring, because we're always trying to evolve. We're always trying to push the culture forward, and I think Cattleack is one of those places that is continuing to do so. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next one.